Good evening. So glad you could join us for this midweek Bible study. President George W. Bush, he wrote a book several years ago called Decision Points. And it's his story of the major decisions that he had to make and why he made them throughout his presidency. But he starts the book in chapter 1 with his decision to quit drinking. And he starts it off by saying, I wanted to get my life turned around. I had to make the decision to turn my life around. I had to make the decision to quit drinking and sort of take control of things and get on the right track. And there were obviously a lot of different influencing factors, but he tells one story about when his dad was the president. And his dad invited Billy Graham to the White House for dinner. And the next day, Graham asked him to go for a walk. And so they did, and Bush told him that he really needed some self-improvement. He really needed to fix some things, and he thought that reading the Bible would help him do that. And he told Billy Graham, I think if I just read the Bible more and spend more time with it, I can get control of some of the things in my life. Graham's response was that if that was what he wanted, the Bible could in fact help him with that. Yeah, it could, but that's not really the point. See, the fact is, the Bible is the most published and the most purchased book in the world. It is one of the most quoted books in the world. It even at one point had its own game show hosted by Jeff Foxworthy. The Bible is huge, but how many people are missing the point? George Bush said for the first half of his life, church was just a place you went when you were with mom and dad on the weekends, and the Bible was just a book that helped you stay out of trouble. He'd never really given it any more thought beyond that. And how many people are there out there that think of it the same way? Well, church is just a place you go that helps you be good, and the Bible is the book that helps you be good. The Bible is the book that gives you the rules, the thou shalt and the thou shalt nots, to keep you good. How many people are thinking that way? There used to be signs up in Virginia along the interstate. And I don't know if they're still there. I haven't been driving through Virginia lately. But once upon a time, they had these signs up there that said, quote, "Buckle up, Virginia. It's a law we can live with." And that sign always made me laugh. Because even though I'm pretty sure they didn't mean it this way, it can be read as being sarcastic. There is a hidden implication in this statement. It's a law we can live with, as opposed to all those laws we can't live with. I can't help but see this sign and think of all the rules and the regulations and the red tape and the bureaucracy and all the things that cause shops to go out of business and people to lose their jobs and families are struggling to put food on the table. And I read this sign like, yeah, all those laws are killing us. All those terrible, terrible rules and regulations and everything, they're bad, they're killing us. But if you buckle up, that's one law that's okay. That's one law that we can actually live with it. Well, people kind of view the Bible in that same way. It's a set of laws that we can live with. But if we're combining it with the laws of the world, which are simultaneously killing us, then spiritually speaking, it seems kind of pointless. If we're trying to live a good and moral life, and we're looking to the Bible to help us set a standard of principles and ethics and a code of conduct to live by, that's what we're looking to the Bible for, we've missed the point. If we think that the Bible is going to help us stop getting drunk, stop cussing, stop lying, help us with our neighbors and our families and friends that we don't always get along with, help us be better parents and better leaders or better community members. If that's what we think it's all about, we've missed the point. If we think the Bible is a set of laws we can live with in this present moment during our time on earth, we miss the point. And furthermore, if that is why we choose the Bible, if those things are our focus, if that's what we're concerned about, why really choose the Bible at all? Why choose Christianity? See, the fact is, Buddhism can help us with all that stuff as much as Christianity. In fact, maybe even better. If I just wanted to be a better person here on earth in this life, I would probably choose Buddhism or maybe Taoism or some other Oriental religion, because those are more focused on life on earth. Those are more focused on self-improvement. Those are more me focused in what I'm doing now and how I'm living this life. And really just about any religion throughout the world can help you be a better person and live a better life. So why choose Christianity? Why choose the Bible? And what is the point? When you're in school and you have to write a paper, they teach you the first thing you do when you write a paper is to figure out your thesis. What is your thesis? Your thesis states the purpose of the paper. Everything on the paper, from the first sentence of the introduction to the last sentence of your conclusion, it all centers around your thesis. And without your thesis, there's really no point in writing the paper. And I was always really bad about this. I would write like 10 pages, and then I'd have to figure out exactly what I'm talking about. What's my point in all of this? And I felt like I was pulling one over on the professors. Because what I'd do is I would just ramble on some topic for 10,000 words, and I just put it all out there. And then after it was all out there, I'd have to say, okay, so what's my thesis in all of this? What is my point? What brings all of this together? It's just random nonsense right now. How do I turn it into thoughtful dialogue? And at the last minute, I'd think of a sentence that pulls it all together. And I was getting A's and B's for this junk. I was getting one over on them. Well, in the Bible, it's not just random nonsense that needs to be pulled together. There is a thesis. There is a statement which everything else hinges upon, and it's the most well-known verse. It's John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. That right there is the point. That's the point of it all. This is the purpose. While all those other religions that are out there, they can help you live a better life here on earth, they can help you be a better person, they don't offer a Savior. They don't offer God come to earth as a man to be a sacrifice for you. None of them offer a perfect sacrifice on our behalf. None of them offer a hope of heaven because of grace, because of mercy. Those other religions, they've got their prophets, but the prophets can't save us. They have their wise teachers, but the wise teachers can't save us. They have their codes of conduct. They have their principles for living. They have their text. But in the end, when this life is over, what does any of that really benefit us? We've all sinned. We've all fallen short. And so when it's time to face our Maker, what does it matter what kind of person we were here on this earth? If we don't have that one single person, Jesus, the Messiah, who can save us. What's it matter if I'm standing before the throne of God and I say, but you know what? I read a self-help book and I got better. Yeah, but you didn't have Christ. What's it matter if I say I lived a really great life on earth? I was so good, but you didn't have Christ. Everything in the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, centers on Christ and what he did for us. It's not about the self or self-improvement. It's about Christ. In John chapter 10, verse 10, it says, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. But wait a minute. What's Jesus mean when he says that? Doesn't he mean improve life? I came that your life may be improved. Doesn't he mean I came that you can have a better life? No. He says, I came that you may have life. He's saying without him, you don't even have life to begin with. He is the one who gave it to you. People assume that because I wake up in the morning and go to work, and that means I'm living life. And the Bible, well, that can help me live an even better life. Jesus is saying no. If if you don't have me, then you don't even have life to begin with. How can the Bible make something better if you don't even have that something to begin with? Christ is what you have to have. The Bible truly is a set of laws we can live with, but only in the sense of eternal living, spiritual living, only in the sense that they are the only laws that are actually guiding us. That's why Jesus talks so much about attitude. It's not just don't murder, it's don't hate. It's the attitude behind it. It's not just don't commit adultery. He says don't lust. It's the attitude behind it. We're not just supposed to give to the church. We're supposed to give with a cheerful heart. It's great if I go and I help the homeless and I give to the needy, but what good's that do if I secretly despise and loathe them? I've missed the point. It's great if I can give tons of money to the church, but if I'm doing it just so I can make a show of it, or so I can feel better about myself, just so I can get a tax write-off and have something to brag about, I've missed the point. If we go over to Matthew chapter 22, there's a great conversation here. Verses 34 through 36, but when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law? Now, have you read the books of Leviticus and Deuteronomy? I just about break a sweat trying to read those books. Those two books have so many laws in them, laws and laws and laws and laws. And this was in the beginning, back when Moses wrote them. This passage here in Matthew, where he's asking which is the great commandment, this comes after Moses. This comes after they've added even more laws to it. It's a trap. Which is the great law? Well, whichever one he picks is going to be wrong. This is one of those questions that politicians are going to spend 5 minutes answering without ever actually answering, because there's no good answer. Whichever commandment you pick, there's going to be an easy argument against it. And then your enemies, your opponents, they can pronounce, well, you obviously don't know what you're talking about. There's no right answer to this question, but what Jesus does is genius. Verses 37 through 40, and he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And a second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. This is a profound answer because he does two things at once. First, talk about a thesis. I mean, this is a great thesis. He has just summed up an entire intricate system of Jewish law that people spend an entire lifetime studying, poring over. He just summed it up, and there's no way you can argue with him. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. Everything else that you're studying, everything that you look at, it can all fit into this little statement right here. Everything falls under those two commands. There's no way for you to disagree with them. So what started out as, hey, I've got a gotcha question because there's no right answer, it turned into, he found the right answer. But the second reason it's so profound is that in answering, he addressed the very two commandments that the Pharisees were missing. And they were the greatest two. These Pharisees, these lawyers, the scribes, they could recite all the laws. They knew all the rites and the rituals. They went through the motions. They may have even been what would be considered good people. Good people. These are the religious elite. But what's the point? They weren't doing it for God. They weren't doing it to help other people. They were doing it for themselves. So in all of those religious laws, all of those religious rules and restrictions and everything, they missed the point. So not only does Jesus accept their challenge of rhetoric and win, but he exposes them and he exposes their flaws. The Pharisees were very concerned about their appearance. and how they appeared to be righteous before everyone else. They were very concerned with meeting those expectations of what a righteous person should look like. They were so concerned with being good, they missed the point. And as a result, they were becoming more and more corrupt. That's the irony. They're so concerned with being good that they became not good. They were so consumed with being godly, they forgot about God and became ungodly. Do we as Christians get so wrapped up in being Christians that we forget about Christ? Christ didn't come to set up a political system. He didn't come to start a social movement. He didn't come to be a countercultural icon or a wise teacher or institute a new way of living. All of those things happened. All of those things happened, but they were byproducts. That wasn't the purpose for coming here. He came to seek and save the lost. He came to die for our sins. His entire purpose in coming to the earth was to be crucified for us so that we could have a home in heaven. Because we had no hope otherwise. There was no way that would have happened otherwise. No matter how good we are or how much self-improvement we do, grace and mercy, that's the only way we'll have entrance into heaven. There's a famous book that has been a national bestseller for years and years. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Maybe you've read this book. I read this book. It's pretty good. Well, in this book, the author explains that in order to make an impact on other people, in order to influence other people, we have to be more concerned with others than with ourselves. If we genuinely take an interest in other people, and we genuinely think about their wants, their desires, what is this person really going for, and we stop focusing on our own wants and desires, that has a big impact with people. That makes a difference, but we don't naturally do that, do we? More often than not, we get wrapped up in our own world. We're far more concerned with ourselves and our stories and our needs, and it's all about me, myself, and I. And that attitude doesn't yield any results. But it's typically the attitude that most people have. How often do we approach the Bible in the same way? How often is that our thinking when it comes to Christianity? The same frame of mind. It's all about me. I know I'm personally guilty of this quite often. I open up the pages, and as I'm reading the Bible, I'm thinking, how does this affect me? What do I gain from this? What do I need to do? What should I take away from this? Because I want to be a good Christian and I want to follow after righteousness. My whole attitude is on my own life, my own actions, and something that you learn from leadership courses in the Army is to identify your strengths, capitalize on the strengths, identify your weaknesses, and try to mitigate those weaknesses or to work to fix those, right? And so that's how I read the Bible. Well, I'm reading through this stuff, and I'm pretty good at this part of it, and so I really need to work harder on that part. But this part over here, I'm not so good at that. I need to improve that. I need to work on that area. In one sense, that's okay. In one sense, that's a good thing to do. That's something we should be doing in our own personal pursuit of righteousness. But in another sense, that's the same thing the Pharisees were doing. That's exactly what the Pharisees were going for. I got to be more and more righteousness. I'm righteous here, but now I need to step it up to here. I got to climb the ladder of holiness. And it becomes an attitude of self-improvement. And it's missing the point. It's focused on our lives in the here and now, in the present moment, trying to achieve this level of holiness, this level of righteousness, this level of goodness that completely misses the point. David is a man after God's own heart, and he was perhaps the most well-rounded, balanced, versatile man around. He was a king and a shepherd. He's a warrior and a poet. He is a true leader and commander, and yet he was humble, he was grounded. And for our lives here on earth, David provides a wonderful example for us. But when you read through his Psalms, read through the poetry that he writes, what you find is a man who is completely dependent on God. There's an attitude throughout his writing that says, despite my achievements, despite how good people might think I am, despite all the things I've done, I am useless without the Lord's hand in it all. All that good stuff that you know me for, all those stories that you've heard about me, I am nothing without God. His attitude is not, well, I defeated lots of enemies. Thank you, Lord, for helping me. His attitude is, Lord, you defeated lots of enemies. I just happen to be the guy you used. There's a difference in that attitude. The Apostle Paul, he's got the same attitude, that he can do nothing apart from Christ, that to live is Christ and to die is gain, despite being one of the best preachers ever, establishing all of those churches and having the special ability. It has absolutely nothing to do with him. His own life and what he did was of no concern. It was only about Christ. We tell our kids that you can do anything you want to do if you put your mind to it. You can be anything you want to be. You can achieve anything you want to achieve, especially right here in America. This is a nation built by people who picked themselves up with their bootstraps. They went from dirt poor to just filthy rich. We've got stories after story after story, all these men of no consequence who became household names. This is the land of opportunity where a little bit of work ethic goes a long way. We instill that in our kids. But if you don't have Christ, what's the point? If your name is known by everyone, if it's printed in every newspaper, if you are the most famous person on earth, but God can't seem to find you in his book of life, what's the point? Here's something they won't tell you in any self-help book. You can't be a better person. The only thing you can do is get out of the way and let God do his work. Let God work through you. Counselors and psychologists will often ask people, what is success? See, people define that word differently. People have different definitions for exactly what success is and what it looks like. Some people consider themselves successful if I make millions and millions of dollars. Other people, they don't need millions, but what they do need is a white picket fence in the yard with a family and a dog and a steady paycheck. You know, that's the American dream right there. And the point by asking what is success is that you can be successful in all sorts of different ways, but the first thing you got to do is define it. What does it look like to you? Figure out what it looks like to you. What is your definition? Then you can go achieve it. But if we look at the big picture, success may not really be that flexible after all, because there will be a final judgment. And either we will receive grace and mercy and be admitted into heaven for all eternity, or we will not and be cast out. And in the end, that's really the only measure of success that really matters. Who cares if you had millions of dollars? Who cares if you had a white picket fence? Who cares if you had self-improvement to the point where you couldn't get any more improvement at all on this earth? If you're missing Christ, you miss the point. The Bible can be used as a history book, a self-help and self-improvement book. It can be used as a political statement, a social statement. It can be used as all sorts of different things, and it certainly applies to all those different aspects of our life here on earth. But let's not miss the point. It's about Christ. It's about the Son of God and his sacrifice and the mercy and the grace that we are offered through him. It's not about us. Let's not get so wrapped up in being Christians and being godly that we forget about Christ and we forget about God. Let's not get so wrapped up in the details that we start becoming like those hypocritical Pharisees, performing the actions and set on the details while completely missing the bigger point. Hope all of you have a great week. Hope all of you stay safe. And I hope you can take these things and think about them and apply them to your life in a way that is beneficial and draws you closer to God and helps you to see the bigger point. Have a great week.